welcome to another episode of Podcast on Fifth Ave. She is Taylor. I am Jenna. We are missing Jordan. I feel like it's a rotation every couple weeks. We're busy, but we're excited to be here, obviously. It's the off season, so, things are a little bit slower for the Penguins. But earlier this week, there was some news. The Penguins and Fenway Sports Group selected a new management group for PPG Paints Arena. It's called Oakview Group. And this is pretty intriguing, Taylor. There's a couple reasons why, but this is the management group that is in charge of UBS Arena, which is the new Islanders Arena, and Climate Pledge Arena. I had to think about the name for a second. The Seattle Kraken Arena, which is pretty cool if you think about it.
Yeah, they manage a couple of other smaller facilities, like Arizona State's hockey rink, which is going to be the Coyotes' an NHL arena too, because Gary Bettman can't just let that go.
Can't do it.
They like the practice facility of the Blues. There's a local tie. They do already manage the UPMC Event Center, Robert Morris. So, they didn't break a contract. The previous contract of the previous management group is already set to expire. I don't think there's gonna be a ton of changes. But with the staff, they're not gonna the management group, the local management group. They're keeping those people. They're keeping all the arena workers. So it's not gonna be a change in that way. But there's bigger things that I think we might end up seeing when it comes to just how PPG Paints Arena is run and parts of the game day experience. Something I'd like to see and that I think is due is just new video board, and then I don't know what you'd call it, but the effects, the lights and the ability to project things on the ice. All new buildings you see have that, including UBS Arena. They have a really cool, video board and the ability to do those kind of presentations on the ice. And the Kraken, they're not in a new building, but it was a renovated building. They can do all that too. We've seen some older buildings around the league be renovated in that way to be able to do those cool little on-ice light shows. The Capital One Arena comes to mind. That's an older building, but they've really made some improvements in that area. So I think that's something that's due because, the PPG Paints Arena, they can't do those. What I'm talking about, when they can turn the ice into a screen and do those. Vegas does a lot of cool, really, really cool things with that. Philly is another building that has been updated in that way. Gritty comes out onto the ice and he puts a flag and it cracks the ice, and then it's a whole thing. I'd love to see that come to PPG Paints Arena. It just feels like that's the way things are going now, and the Penguins are a little bit behind in that because the building's been around for a little over a decade now.
Can we get Iceberg coming down from the rafters and doing something on the ice? I think that needs to be part of this too.
Honestly, they need to look at what the Flyers did with Gritty and see if you can just capture even a little bit of that. Just a little.
No, but we do talk about game day experiences, and you look at, arenas across the league. Tampa kind of always comes to mind with the lightning from the ceiling, little things like that add to the experience that, again, like we said, because of PPG Paints Arena and it being a little bit quote unquote older, they don't have the capabilities to do that.
Yeah. You bring up Tampa. I feel like a lot of buildings we go to, the vibe is just so much cooler. I don't know how to explain it, but Tampa, you go to a game, you went to the opener in Tampa, so you know what I'm talking about. Stuff like the music choices. I feel like I don't even know how I would describe the music at PPG Paints Arena, but it's not things that you can typically sing to. It's just a lot of EDM type stuff and club remixes, and I don't know. It's cool. I feel like it's not something that it's something that's hard to get into, but stuff like that. I'd love to see them drop RC Cola. I don't know how long that,
How long is that deal? Can we just bring Coke and Diet Coke?
The contract I'm concerned about with this off season. When can we? Because go to other buildings, especially in the press box, and there's a Coke Zero fountain and normal Coke and all that. And then we go to PPG Paints Arena and we got RC Cola, Diet RC Cola. That's my big concern, right?
I respect that. And just also too, I mean, again, Tampa comes to mind. That's one of the most recent arenas that I've been to. But you just look at, the way that their food is and all of that. And PPG's is great. Not saying that in any means, but there could be kind of those areas of improvement. Bringing more local places in, which they have done. Obviously, there's the Permanis, there's the Milkshake Factory, which is really cool to see. But can there be a little bit more?
Yeah,
what else can be done?
Especially with the food too. I mean, we were already seeing changes, over the past couple of years with like the ordering experience, stuff that like maybe we wouldn't have thought of, just like technological advancements. Like they do the thing now where I believe you can go on the app and order food, and then there's little like pickup stations, like they look like lockers, or they just put it in so you don't have to wait in line. So stuff like that maybe, I mean, I can't think of anything that I would add, but like the locker concept isn't something I think I would have thought of anyway. So I don't know what the food ordering process is like at, like UBS Arena. But something like that. I don't know. You're talking about like, Tampa, they have like the lightning and elements like that. What if they bring back, have you heard that like Pete the Penguin? Remember, have you ever heard about that? In the 70s, early 70s.
Is that the penguin that died?
Yeah.
So sorry.
They had a penguin on loan from the Pittsburgh Zoo. His name is Pete. He died. I want to say it was pneumonia. They did not have his conditions like great. He was living in at the arena.
R.I.P. in the most peace. Pete.
I mean, but I think the best story. So he died, and then the zoo just loaned them another penguin, and they named it Repeat. Right? No.
What
Repeat.
are we doing?
I know. So if we can get maybe a third penguin from the zoo, if they would, we know we've learned a lot about how to treat penguins and the facilities they need to live in. Just an idea.
Yep.
Right.
Bring some baby. Come on, can you imagine like baby penguins?
Oh my God!
The cute
they had one at like. I don't know what the theme night was, but they did have a penguin in, I don't know, it was the aviary or what. He didn't go on the ice. It was like he was hanging out on like the concourse, and you could go, I don't know if they'd let you pet him or whatever, you could see him. But I don't know, I like got in the elevator when I got there, and it smelled funny, and it's like there's a cat carrier, and I looked in it, and it's a little penguin. So
that's the dream. I just want to go cover a Penguins game and like hold a little baby penguin for like 3 minutes. I don't think we're asking too much there.
These are the ideas for the new group. Real penguins, and lights, cool lights, and Coke instead of RC Cola. Those are the three things I'd look for.
I think those are very reasonable demands. Well, why don't we take a quick break, and when we come back, we will talk a little bit about the remaining teams in the playoffs. Well, now there's 3, so we'll talk about that. And welcome back to Podcast on Fifth Ave. She is Taylor. I am Jenna. And we're going to talk a little bit about the Western Conference and Eastern Conference finals. Western Conference finals wrapped up. It was a wild series. I feel like all of the goals were scored. Every single goal, just all of them. Colorado getting the sweep of Edmonton, which I definitely would not have predicted, Taylor.
No, I mean, when you missed last week, Jordan and I, we did our series predictions, and we were both in agreement, like, okay, Colorado is definitely going to come out of this series, but I think we both picked 7 games just because of like Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, and we saw in the earlier series how they were able to kind of single-handedly close out some games, and I think I said so those 2 are definitely going to stretch this to 7, but I mean a sweep, I don't think anyone saw that coming.
No, and just the way that it all happened, it seemed like momentum swung like crazy in these games, especially the first game of that series where it's like Colorado goes up, Edmonton's like, haha, we're coming back. It just, all of it felt like a swinging pendulum. And everybody says momentum in sports isn't a thing. It's a thing.
Yeah, and Mike Smith, not great. I think, just looking at these Oilers, I don't know what they do in the off season, because I mean they're going to have cap troubles too, just, being up against the cap. I know, they've said they want Evander Kane back because Evander Kane did have a really good playoffs for them. But if they're going to, retain a lot of these guys, they're not going to have a lot of money to go out there and upgrade goaltending. So I don't know. I don't know if these Oilers necessarily need major change. I think, they did take just major strides this year anyway, and some of the additions they did add, like Kane. But yeah, I don't know, just very interesting series. Yeah, goaltending and defense, obviously the big holes with them. So I don't know. It would be interesting to see what they upgrade this offseason, but not a lot of money to work with.
No, and again, like they did take a lot of strides, and this was something you have players like Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. You expect this team to really compete, especially for a Stanley Cup, and for them to win the way that they did to get to this point was great. But again, there's definitely issues that they're going to look to fix, including the fact that their goaltending was not great, and you need a solid goaltender in the postseason.
I saw a tweet saying his name is just Connor David now because McKinnon kept the Mick, and because people are calling it like the Mick Conference Finals because McKinnon McDavid. And I saw the tweet after, like, I think it's just Connor David now. So Connor David.
Poor Connor David.
Yeah.
But you mentioned McKinnon. I mean, just the Avs do really seem unstoppable, especially just with the pace that we're getting from this Eastern Conference final. It'll be really interesting to kind of see. There's always that debate, rest versus rust. How is that going to go with the Avs? Probably getting, I would guess, almost a week, probably, by the way that this is going to shake out. Of rest before that series starts.
And that's huge this time of year because everyone's dealing with something.
Yeah.
I mean, the Avs, the big storyline of them, one of the storylines, just like their number of in-season acquisitions that are really stepping up for them and are just being huge in this in these playoffs, like Lehkonen. McKinnon had the quote. Yep. He said, "That's why you trade for a guy like that at the deadline. I'd trade 10 first-rounders for him right now." We'll all be gone when those guys come to the league anyways. The 10 first-rounders. So he probably doesn't have a future as a GM, Nathan McKinnon.
Definitely not.
Yeah, but his we'll all be gone when those guys come to the league anyways. That's just an interesting, I think we know players have that mentality. I think it's interesting to see them say that, when the Penguins, if they part with like a first-round pick, a high draft pick, the guys like Crosby, whoever, they don't care because they wouldn't see that pick pan out anyway, most likely. I just think it's interesting that we hear them actually articulate that, but that's mentality these players have.
Yeah, it's the win now mode, especially for so many of these guys that don't have Stanley Cups. They're like, we want to do anything and everything to get one.
Yeah. And the Eastern series, I can't remember what my prediction was. I think I said Tampa. I might have said 6 or 7. I think, and it looks like this one might go the distance. It's an interesting series for sure. But the goaltending has been, one of the big stories in this one. As we all thought, it's the two best goalies in the league going head to head.
And both teams are finding ways to exploit the opposing goalie, which I think is super fascinating. I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, so I can't generalize it. Or I'm going to generalize it. I can't specify it. That's the word. But the Rangers are beating Vasilevsky high blocker side more than anything else. I want to say it was through 3 games 17 times. Or they're finding ways. They're taking shots so much more of a high volume of shots against his high blocker just because they've found that as a weakness. And on the flip side, this was actually a weakness that the Penguins exploited of Igor Shesterkin, but they're beating him 5-hole tremendously. So it's so funny to kind of see the parallel here.
Yeah, I think, this is a series that goes seven games. I don't know who my pick is now to get out of it. I think I'm still sticking with Tampa. What about you? Because we didn't get your pick.
I was going to say, going into this, I've told people Colorado and Tampa. I think Colorado does win the cup just because Tampa feels like they're gassed, but still somehow finding ways to win games and keep things competitive. I mean, you thought that Toronto was going to be done all of a sudden. Now it's like, oh, they have a whole lot of life.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm interested.
And oh, go ahead.
I'm interested to see Jack Johnson in the Stanley Cup final.
Yes!
Right?
Will Jack Johnson get a Stanley Cup?
Yeah.
With the Colorado Avalanche.
The universe, the way things work out. Crosby and the Penguins out first round. Jack Johnson, Stanley Cup final. And he's actually been playing in a lot of these games. You know, he wasn't a regular throughout this season. He's like a 6-7 guy, but he's actually been in. I only saw, I think, only one goal that stands out that he really got burned on. It was like, I think, the opening goal of that series. But other than that, he's been fine.
He's been fine, which is exactly what the Avalanche need him to be. I think one of the intriguing things to me between Tampa and the Rangers was like, how were the Rangers going to match up against Tampa's experience? Because again, when you win 2 Stanley Cups in a row, you know how to win these really tough games. You know how to grind everything out, considering just how much of a grind it is to win a Stanley Cup, let alone back-to-back, let alone have a chance at a third. But I think the Rangers, the way that they've won both series, going to game 7s both times and having a lot of these young guys, most of them in their first playoff appearance, really get that experience. I think that kind of makes it a little bit more evenly matched in that sense, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. And I think if the Rangers make it out of this series, maybe that'll help them too, that they do have those young guys that are really carrying a big part of this the load for them, because they're going to be going up against a Colorado team that's pretty rested. So having those young guys, I think, would help. But I mean, if Tampa comes out of this, I mean, it's gonna be a rested Colorado team against a Tampa team that really has not had that much time off in the past several years.
No, and has been beat up, and somehow I keep comparing them to like the video game giant snake that you can't kill no matter what combination of buttons you push.
Yeah,
like that's how they feel.
Yeah, I mean, because people were writing off Tampa, I think, as like or just like not picking them, to win the cup this year, because like how could they go 3 in a row? But they might go 3 in a row. I'm still sticking with Colorado. No matter who makes it out of the East, I think Colorado is just so dominant. But it's gonna be an interesting series for sure.
Let the excitement continue. Well, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we got some fun stories. We got some cute stories, including a Penguins defenseman who is a pretty darn good, something like that. Babysitter. That's where we're going. So stick with us when we're back. And welcome back to Podcast on Fifth Ave. So Taylor, you were up at the Penguins practice facility earlier this week, and you saw a whole lot of things happening, including a Penguin who was injured back on the ice.
Yeah, I obviously have nothing better to do with my off season, so I've just been going to the rink anyway. It's actually around the corner from the gym I go to, so I've been just popping in the morning to see if anything's happening, and stuff's been happening. Brian Dumoulin, so the first day I went, Dumoulin was back on the ice, which is crazy because it's been just about a month since he was hurt, and he talked about, I mean, he had a full tear of his MCL. He talked about how his shin was slipping out of his kneecap, and I'm watching him. He looks fine. He's moving normally. You can't tell anything's wrong. It's not like, it doesn't look like he's rehabbing from something. He looks 100%. But yeah, so he's in town. The first day I went and I saw him, it was just him on the ice skating with Ty Hennis, the Penguins skills coach, who always does work with the injured guys. But and he skated for about like 45 minutes or so, and then the next time I went, which is Tuesday, I want to say it was Tuesday, Dumoulin came on the ice with Ty Hennis again, and there's a woman, I couldn't tell initially who it was, I mean, a little shorter, and then once she turned around, I realized it was Emily Matheson, Emily Falzer Matheson, Mike Matheson's wife. She, though, is a defender for Team USA now, she hasn't played in quite some time now, just because they had their son Hudson, who just celebrated his first birthday. So it's been almost 2 years that she hasn't, represented Team USA. But so it looks like, and I don't think she's never officially like retired. So I don't know if she's working towards a return for either internationally or just this PWHPA potential league, because she is affiliated with the PWHPA. So she was on the ice, and then I looked over on the bench, and there's like a little toddler kid running back and forth, and Mike Matheson's kid is only 1 year old, so it's not his, it's Dumoulin's. And then he's on the bench by himself, and then Mike Matheson comes out. Mike Matheson wasn't skating, but he was on kind of just babysitting duty for most of, it was like a longer skate. It was like 45 minutes an hour, but Mike Matheson was babysitting. I think it's Braden Dumoulin's son's name. But I thought it was so funny. So through after maybe 20 minutes, half an hour, Mike Matheson did go back into the locker room and just kind of left Braden out there. So they had the bench door open, and Braden, he's standing at the bench door. I think he's like 4 or 5 years old, little kid. I don't know. And he's passing Emily Matheson, Brian Dumoulin pucks from the bench, and he looked impressive to me for like a 4 or 5 year old. But he's doing that, and then every time Dumoulin, Emily Matheson, Ty Hennis kind of like drifted away from him, you could tell he wanted to go out onto the ice so bad. So he put a foot down, and then he'd kind of like look around, just kind of saying like, am I going to get away with this? And then like he'd take the other foot and step onto the ice, and then Dumoulin would see him and be like, no, get back. And then he'd skate over, pick him up, put him back on the bench, go back out there, and then it would like repeat. And then like a couple minutes later, Braden would like put a foot out, like, am I going to be able to get out here? And eventually they did have to like lock him into the bench, like shut the door to leave, and then the door to get out. So but then he was just running back and forth, like lobbing pucks over the boards to Dumoulin and Emily Matheson. So it was really cute. It's cool that that they're all together like that. And Mike Matheson's the babysitter, but yeah, it was a cool thing, and cool to see Dumoulin back on the ice 4 weeks after his shin slipping out of his kneecap.
That's insane. The recovery and like the treatment that these guys get is just beyond fascinating to me, and just how quickly they can get back out there. And it's like, oh yeah, no, we're good. Like, but again, really good to see him out there. Also, Mike Matheson would probably be that babysitter as a kid that you were like, yes, because he'd let you get away with anything.
Yeah, I love the way he talks about like his wife, and like how supportive he is of like what she's doing, with her career and all that. And because she coached when Team USA in Canada played at PPG Paints Arena recently, that exhibition game, because she's not playing it, so she was the coach. And I remember him talking about how excited he was to be able to like watch Hunter during that game and kind of have the tables flip, because normally she's watching Hudson. Hunter's Brian Russ kid. Hudson. She normally watches Hudson at their games, but he was really excited to, the way he phrased it was deal with Hudson during the game, and then after the game, remember, like we asked to follow up, like he's like, his wife got mad at him for phrasing his dealing with Hudson. So he said it was a privilege to be with Hudson. But I remember seeing him after that game, the exhibition game, and like just pushing their baby around in the stroller outside the locker room and like showing him off to all the like the US and Canadian women. So really cool. Yeah, Mike Matheson, he has to be like a cool babysitter
for sure. Wholesome dad, cool babysitter. We love it for sure. 100%. So I do have a couple funny stories. I was in Canada this past weekend, so that's why I didn't record. Friend of the podcast and my boyfriend, Mike DeFabo, and I went up to Quebec City for a wedding. And so you think we're in Canada, right? It is game 2 of the Western Conference Final. And obviously, Quebec City, they're probably not the biggest fans of Colorado, because obviously it used to be the Nordiques. But Edmonton and Connor McDavid, you think like people would be super into it, right? So on the night of the game, we went out to dinner, and then we were walking along the street looking for a bar that we're like, oh, let's pop in, get a beer, watch the game. So we're walking up to this bar, and it is bumping. Like, it seems like there's a lot of people, seems like there's a great vibe. And we're like, all right, this will be the place. Like, they'll have the game on, we'll go watch. We're turning to walk in, and there are two TVs in this bar, and they are playing the music video for Sweet Home Alabama.
Of course, makes sense. Yeah.
I'm like, we're as Canadians do, Sweet Home Alabama, like, for sure. So I'm like, all right, whatever, we'll go find another bar. So we walk further down the street, and there's this pub, and there's a bunch of TVs, and they have the game on. I'm like, great, this is going to be our spot. Let's go in. Let's go watch this. So we go, we order a beer at the bar. We sit down at a table. They immediately change it to NBA Finals.
Who's in the NBA Finals? Definitely not
Celtics Warriors.
That didn't, yeah.
No relation. I'm like, we are in Canada. It should not be this difficult to watch a hockey game, let alone the Western Conference Finals.
Yeah, regardless of the team, you figured the conference finals in Canada would be a big deal.
I was like, what is happening? So then we asked the bartender, we're like, hey, would you guys be able to turn on the hockey game? And she was like, yeah, absolutely. Like, let me go do that. And we wait like 5-10 minutes. Nothing's happening. She comes back to table. She goes, actually, we've had a lot of requests for this basketball game, so I'm sorry, but I have to leave it on. I'm like, if I wanted to watch the NBA, I would have stayed in the United States.
That's funny, because we were just talking, like, before we started recording, Game 7 of Carolina, New York. I was in New York, and we went to a Canadian sports bar, and honestly, like, Rangers fans are crazy. Like, listening to, like, how, I don't know how loud they were. I mean, we're in a sports bar. But yeah, it's called the Canuck. And there's like a big picture of Sidney Crosby behind me where we were sitting, so can't escape him. But yeah, just like a lot of Canadian, Hayley Wickenheiser, she was there, and then Shania Twain, big Canadian hockey player. But yeah, poster of her like along with.
If you don't have Hayley Wickenheiser, Sidney Crosby, and Shania Twain on the wall, you're just doing it wrong.
Yeah, the Canuck, though, good food. Would recommend it if you are in New York City and want to watch a hockey game, because they will put it on TV.
They will put it on, unlike in Canada. I was like, what is happening? But you do mention Sidney Crosby. We walked into a Canadian hockey jersey store, which was super cool because obviously Quebec City, Montreal is their closest. So they have like all the kids' jerseys, Cole Caulfield, Suzuki, all the younger Canadians up on the wall. And then they have, a couple things from different teams, and naturally prominently displayed Sidney Crosby jerseys. Of course.
Do you remember? Well, no, you weren't here. But when the Vegas expansion draft happened, you could go to like Dick's Sporting Goods here and find like Fleury Vegas jerseys.
Yes,
same kind of vibe. Where it's like doesn't matter where they actually play, but I mean the way Pittsburgh latched onto Fleury, and obviously Crosby in Canada, not surprising. But yeah, it's pretty funny.
No, national treasure. So, and they did have a Tampa Bay 2020 Stanley Cup champion hat on sale.
Fleury, you see he got a Lady Bing vote? Like, he finished, I think he might have gotten 2 first place Lady Bing votes. Good for him. I mean, I think it was like 72 players got votes for the Lady Bing, no Penguins. Which, I mean, I didn't vote for a Penguin. I mean, Evan Rodriguez, I feel like if he would have went to the, he was their least penalized player for the longest time. He went a really long time without getting a penalty, but then he kind of made up for it at the end. That, and then what's the other? Oh, the Selke vote was the one a lot of people are mad about because Crosby and Evan Rodriguez finished tied for 34th. Now that doesn't mean that people think he's the 34th best defensive forward in the league, because the way these votes we get 5 spots. So if he's not in your top 5, I don't know, like most of these guys who are in like the 20s and 30s, they only got like one vote, you know, and it's like a tie, like a fourth or fifth. I mean, he wasn't on my ballot.
Yeah.
The fifth place vote he got was came from a Boston writer. The fifth place vote for Evan Rodriguez came from Vancouver. I don't know. But
everybody just loves to make such a big deal about it, especially like for Patrice Bergeron, who wins, and then everybody's freaking. It's like, what are we doing, guys? What's happening?
I feel like, because the way what they're doing the awards this year, it's not, you know, they're going to have the one big award show where some of the bigger awards are announced, and Kenan Thompson's going to host it, and it's going to be something in person. But for some of the smaller ones that people don't care about as much, it has been like, you know, like every other day what they're announcing one. And when that happens, they do, you know, our votes are made public, and I feel like every award that comes out and people see the voting results, there's like a main character, and it's like everyone's ragging on this guy and like, why did he vote? So far, no one's gotten mad at me over any of my picks yet, so I feel good. I mean, people did ask, I think I've gotten a few Penguins fans asking like why I didn't have, you know, whoever, because I mean, I didn't have a single Penguin on my ballot other than Brian Boyle, third for the Masters, and other than that, there's no Penguins anywhere on my ballot, so don't get your hopes up. But so far, no one's been mean to me on Twitter over like some crazy decisions, so I feel good.
I was going to say, it's much like the rule of Twitter, just don't be the main character. That's all you got to do.
Every time they announce a new award and I'm not the main character or even a minor character, I feel good.
Just, you don't need to make an appearance in the play. You can be the understudy. You don't have to make your big debut. It's good.
No.
Well, that will do it for this episode of Podcast on Fifth Ave. Be sure to subscribe to us wherever you listen to your podcasts, and join us every Thursday. We have a lot of fun here, so stay tuned for next week. We'll see you then.